Self-image equals confidence. The more you see, the more comfortable you will get, knowing that you will get to a point where you're ready to accept who this person is in the mirror, that it's actually you, being comfortable with yourself, with that new you, and that it won't be new anymore, and that it would just be you in the end.
I think it's important. This video is very, very important. There's not a lot of information out there on amputees. I've spent time looking, and it didn't answer any of my questions. And I'm hoping this will answer some for some other one.
I ended up getting a blood clot on my 35th birthday. They removed the clot. That was July 2nd. By September, I was in so much pain, I just told them to remove it. And after that, kind of dealt with my amputation, and here I am now.
I went to the doctor one Saturday morning thinking I had a bad case of the flu, and the next thing I know, I'm in ICU. I remember waking up and I saw my hands were black, and I knew what that meant, but it didn't really register. And the next memory I have, I woke up and I didn't have hands. They were wrapped in bandages.
I was 7 years old. We used to run and jump and ride the trains, and fell in between the cars, and it got me. I was laying on my back, and my front leg went over the rail, and one of the wheels got me, and then there was a chain that was dragging, wrapped around my arm, and just took me, and all the gravel and stuff was tearing up my left leg, until this here just snapped and sealed it shut and dumped me right there in between the tracks. I remember putting my arm up in the air as a sign for someone to see me to come for help. And that was going to be 43 years ago.
I lost my arm in an accident when I was about 2 years old. I mean, it's not pretty. I've had 15, 16 surgeries on it, so it has all kinds of bumps and bruises and marks. But in the end, when I go to bed and before sleeping, I look at myself in the mirror, I feel okay. But this will not happen on day 1 or on day 2. It could take months, years.
I was very young when I lost my arm. I was 21. I didn't have the capacity to deal with the anger and the devastation.
Me, the first time I see myself in the mirror was a couple of days after my amputation in the hospital. Rehab came to get me in the room, start rehab, and as I stood up on my walker, they placed the mirror right there in front of me, and that's when I kind of glanced and looked at myself and like, wow, my leg is actually gone. I felt shocked. I was angry, I was mad at the world.
Well, in the hospital, I think a couple times I'd used a small mirror just to look at the incision site, but I hadn't really looked at myself in a mirror until I got home and saw myself in the full-length mirror in my bathroom. And so I was in my wheelchair, just happened to wheel by, and kind of caught a glimpse of myself, and remember thinking almost, who is that? I couldn't recognize that person as me at all. And it's something I still kind of struggle with, but at the time I had a distinct feeling of, who is this person? I can't be me in this body.
So the first time I saw myself in the mirror after having lost my arm, I was allowed to go down to physical therapy on my own. They were understaffed at one of the local county hospitals, and so they sent me down there with my chart, and I walked down, and now that I think of it, I can't remember if it was on my way in or on my way out, but I remember turning towards the mirror and thinking, oh no, what has happened? And I was just the most horrible, wow, this is not good, not good at all. I spent the rest of the day crying in my room. It was a very bad day.
After the initial shock for me, I think hopelessness and fear set in for me. I just felt a deep sadness, and all I could do was express it through tears. And I just got to where I had to be okay with times of sitting down and crying and just crying it out.
So I think that if a nurse helps prepare you with the different reactions that you may experience, that can help take away that initial sense of shock and make it a little bit easier.
And there's only a first time that you can look yourself in a mirror, especially after an accident or whatever has caused you to lose a limb. So it's extremely important to not undermine what is a mirror to a person who has just lost his or her limb. Imagine, viewing yourself, getting used to this familiar person every day, and then all of a sudden one day you see a familiar face but with a little bit different body, and that can cause an identity crisis.
Nobody told me how to start looking at the mirror, start accepting it, or start working with this amputation. And so if I could have known first how to look in the mirror, to start accepting it, and then I think it would have been easier for me to deal with it overall, because if you can accept it, then anybody can accept it.
I grew up in a generation where you didn't ask for the mirror. It was vain. You didn't watch yourself in a building as you walked by. A lady just didn't do those things. So it never occurred to me.
I wouldn't ask for a mirror before because I didn't want people to think that I was weird, wanting to actually look at the incision and see what it looked like.
In thinking about why it is that nurses don't, or typically don't, introduce the mirror to their patients who have amputations, I think there's probably a lot of fear there. I mean, that's a really powerful moment to have somebody see themselves for the first time after having a limb amputated.
The nurse is going to be the one that initiates that healing process and how the patient responds to that. Having a good bedside manner is critical in preparation for that.
I think that when nurses are introducing the mirror, first of all, it would be important to kind of ease you into it. Maybe say, we'll come by in an hour or two with the mirror. That way you can kind of prepare yourself for it. Then also you can say, I'm not ready if it's not the right time.
I think a very first question, a direct question that a nurse could ask a patient would be, are you ready to take a look at how you look in a mirror?
I think it's important for the nurse to let the new amputee know that you're going to go through a wide array of emotions.
I think it would be good for a nurse when she offers the mirror to a patient to let them know. It might feel mad, you may feel sad, you may be disgusted, you may not feel anything at all. All of those are normal reactions.
It'd also be good for them to prepare you for the things that you might experience. Maybe say, you might feel shocked, you may feel nothing, you may feel numb, you may not be able to even recognize the person you see as yourself, you may be disgusted by what you see, and just kind of give you some of the words to put to what you feel, because in the beginning, all you feel is shock. Sometimes it's hard to even figure out how you feel. So to just describe some of the normal reactions could be helpful.
Everybody is different, and my story may not mean something to a lot of people. Maybe it will to someone. I know when I first had my amputations, I had so many questions, and there were physicians to tell me the medical part, nurses to tell me the practical part, all of these things. I wanted someone to tell me what it's going to be like, and if I was normal. Whatever you're feeling, that's normal.
I think it's really important to look in a large, like a full-size mirror, because if you use a small mirror and you're looking just at the limb, you can kind of disconnect yourself from that. It doesn't feel like you're looking at you. But when you're looking in a big mirror, you can see your head attached to your body. It feels more like you, and kind of beats that idea into your head that this is what my body now looks like. I think it's important that this be done in a private setting. You don't want a lot of people around. Maybe ask the patient, is there somebody that you'd like to be there while you look in the mirror for the first time? And then also make sure you're in a safe position, sitting down, because it can be shocking to see yourself for the first time. I also think it's important that nurses know that looking in the mirror is not a one-time thing. It's not as though, okay, you've looked in the mirror, you've seen yourself, now let's move on. I think they should bring the mirror back like every day, because each time you look in the mirror, you know, that process, you know, changes a little bit. So it's not as though once you've seen yourself, you're done. You want to keep looking over and over in the mirror.
The nurses, they have to have a lot of patience, especially with the patients, because you're going to have some that want to rebel, some that want to fight back, some that don't want to try. And as a nurse, you need to understand where they're coming from.
Not everyone is going to be able to look in the mirror alone. They may need extra help. I would have definitely, you know, having, you know, 4 amputations, it wasn't just a little look in the mirror for me. My whole life had changed.
So I think that nurses should refer to a psychologist or mental health professional, certainly if somebody is talking about suicide, feeling worthless, feeling like their life, you know, is not worth living anymore. Anybody who maybe has a past history of suicide attempts, is engaging in a lot of substance use, maybe somebody who's had multiple amputations, and especially somebody who doesn't have a good support system to help them through this process. I think for those people it'd be important to refer them.
Looking in the mirror, it was like having to beat it into my brain that this is me, this is my reflection, and this is how it's going to be. Using the mirror to process through the different stages of healing from an amputation is so important, because the friend is your mirror, and there's stages where you look at it and first you see the amputation, and then you look at it maybe a week later or a month later and you see yourself and the amputation. And I think the final stages is being able to just see you and not focusing on the amputation, and seeing the amazing person that you are and being grateful for that.
I think it's important for other amputees to know not to avoid the mirror. I've heard so many people, and I went through avoiding looking in the mirror, and you think that you're saving yourself some pain, that you're doing something good by not forcing yourself to look at your image because it causes you so much, you know, displeasure. But in reality, you know, you're putting something off that's inevitable, and in order to accept yourself, you have to be able to at least look at yourself. I mean, how can you accept yourself if you can't even stand the sight of yourself? So it's important to, you know, go through whatever emotions that brings up, work through that, and then eventually you'll get to a place where even if you don't like what you see, at least you're comfortable with looking.
I like what you said. Once you accept yourself in that mirror, everybody else accepts you. You know, once you have that confidence in yourself, like, oh, okay, I'm in the mirror, I look good today, and you step out in the world, everybody sees it. They don't even see your prosthetic or anything you're missing no more, because they're looking at you like, dude, this dude has a smile on his face, happy-go-lucky today. You know, that's the way I look at it. That's the way I feel every day. You know?
I like looking in the mirror.
Hey, you know what? Honestly, I don't even see it no more in the mirror. Yeah. I'm more worried about my clothes, matching.
Yeah, I cruise. I go, okay, we're looking pretty good, man, and keep on rolling.
And you know, that's a good point. Like, first when you look in the mirror, you see what you're missing. Yeah. And then over time you can see yourself and see that, and then after that it's just you just see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see you for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at this handsome devil, you know? But no, yeah, I look in the mirror to shave, brush my teeth, comb my hair.
I use the mirror to get ready in the mornings, do my hair, my makeup, my lipstick, earrings, just making sure, you know, that last glance before you walk out the door that you're presentable and ready for the world to see you.
When I learned to walk again at the physical therapy department, there was a mirror the end of some parallel bars that I used to observe my gait when I was walking between them, just to make sure that my walking motion was as normal as possible.
After the amputation, I used the mirror to check the incision site, and now I continue to use it to check the leg to make sure there's not any skin breakdown or any red areas to where there might be skin breakdown. I use the mirror when putting on the prosthetic to make sure that one side is not longer than the other, and to make sure I'm fitting down into the prosthetic evenly like I should be.
So I used to just, you know, be so focused on my amputated leg. And recently I had twins, and I found myself looking in the mirror and kind of being very focused on my C-section scar and thinking, oh, this scar is so horrible. And then I think about, okay, you have burns on this leg, you're missing half a foot, you don't have, and you're noticing this tiny little scar right there. So that was kind of a funny thing to realize.
What I do with that's up to me. And I choose just to be very focused. You know, I'm going to get through this. Tomorrow's going to come. Everybody's going to go do what they did the day before or whatever. Me having amputations is not going to change the world.
You realize that there's more to you than just the amputation. You can't let it just define you. Like, I'm an amputee and that's it. No, that's not it. You know, I'm more than an amputee. I'm a business analyst. I am a sled hockey player. I enjoy playing tennis. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I like to skydive. It's those things that you learn to define yourself by.
It's an adrenaline rush, and it helps to get out and be out there with everyone.
But once you can see yourself and be happy with, you know, that it's going to be cool, it's going to be all right. You're alive, you're here. You can move on. You can do anything you want to after that. But you have to accept yourself and love yourself. And once you can do that, there's no stopping you.
You know, we raise families, we work jobs, we play sports, we go out with our friends.
Me and that person in the mirror, it's up to us to be able, you know, to make it through this world.